I think we can go directly into the next slide because we did our intro already. So really quick, to introduce our program, we are a platform created to bring together different people from different backgrounds and industries, essentially to just share their thoughts about all things that are related to education. And so we believe passionately and genuinely in the power of education to influence students, parents, and also future educators as well. And if you want more info, you can find us at educatorsforimpact.org. And besides myself, I also have 6 other team members: Angelina, Vanessa, Chris, Elaine, Aaron, and Joyce, who are also work with us to make this event possible. Okay, so like we discussed before, Ashwini Mulgaonkar, Senior Director of Research and Development at Synopsys, Inc. So her team, the Digital Implementation Product Engineering team, which is the bridge between product developers and field/customers, is actually currently working to enable scalable deployment and establish SNPS as the place and route market leader. And so before Synopsys, she actually earned her master's degree in electrical and computer engineering at UT Austin. And so I will leave it up to the wonderful Ashwini to discuss a little bit more about what she does.
Thank you, Ryan. And thank you all of you for taking the time to be here today, despite being Father's Day. I do appreciate that. Are you going to be flipping the slides, Elaine, or is it going to be Ryan?
Oh, that would be Elaine.
Okay, all right. So I thought I will spend the first 15 minutes going through about 5 or 7 slides, and then we can throw the floor open for Q&A. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Synopsys. I joined Synopsys almost 30 years ago, and it's sort of been where, fresh out of school, and all my formative years and everything I've been has been at Synopsys. So I grew along with Synopsys. So Synopsys, when I joined it, was just a software company, doing digital design or digital implementation. Now it's grown into this big behemoth with like a $67 billion market cap. We were at $6 billion maybe 10 years ago. So like a 10x increase in market cap. It's got a software security component. It's got a systems component, an IP component, and then there's a design, which is both a custom design as well as digital design and silicon. And that group, the design and silicon group, it's called EDA, or Electronic Design Automation Group. And that's the group that I belong to. So on the right-hand side, I talk about the EDA group, and we have much better pictures, but this was public domain, so this is the one I grabbed. And the EDA group has what we call, our GM, our general manager, calls a vertical stack. And the vertical stack goes all the way from system architecture, there are a bunch of products in there, all the way through implementation down to silicon manufacturing, or TCAD. And implementation is the group that I work for, digital implementation specifically. And in digital implementation, it is place and route. I'll take a few moments to talk about place and route. Anything you own today, any electronic item, whether it's your iPhone, whether it's your television, whether it's your notepad, your laptop, your smart TV, your car, any of the ADAS systems in your car, which the cruise control, things like that, all of these are powered by chips. And all these chips, every single one of the chips, have some IP that has been designed using Synopsys software. If it's not Synopsys, and there are very, very rare cases when there isn't even 1% of the software on that chip designed by Synopsys, then it is our main competitor, which is Cadence, but it is one of the two. And Synopsys so place and route is the part of the software, the chip design, which takes your design and converts it to a format that can then be taken to a manufacturing what we call a foundry. You may have all heard of TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or Samsung or Intel. These are the big foundries of the world. And they take this representation that comes out of place and route. And there are a few steps in between, but they take this representation and they convert it into the silicon, into the chips, into the wafers. And those are the ones that are then purchased by, the Qualcomms and the MediaTeks and the Samsungs and the Broadcoms of the world to then create your IP, whether it's your CPUs, your GPUs, NVIDIAs, AMDs, all these big companies to create the chips and to create the mobile phones, etc., that you then go and buy. So we play, the EDA companies, Synopsys, we play a very, very important role in everything that you do in your day-to-day lives, because we enable all these devices that you take for granted in your day-to-day lives. All the gaming companies, all the gaming consoles, they all have software designed using Synopsys tools. Next slide, please. So within place and route, what do I do, or my team does? So I lead a team, it's about 70 people, and we are all over the world. So in the US, in Chile, in Taiwan, China, India, Europe. And we, what we do is we support both the research and development teams who are designing the software. We work with them to make sure that the software that's being created is robust and it actually solves the problem that the customers are wanting solved. So it addresses the real issues. And we also work with our field channel that supports the customers and directly with the customers to understand what are the issues that they are facing. So we do pathfinding, we do prototyping, and I've divided the work my team does into 4 quadrants. There's reactive work, there's proactive work, and there's product or inbound facing work, and there's outbound customer facing work. Ideally, I want all the work we do to be proactive, because reactive is not leverageable, it's not scalable. And what I really want is at the top, we want to support successful, scalable deployment of place and route technologies, because we want to support the vision to enable customers to implement their coolest, fastest, smallest chips within the shortest window. And for that, we have to support our mission of delivering differentiated PNR technologies. So that's where we sit in the middle. The vision is for the customer, the mission is what the group does. We're in the middle, the enablers. Next slide, please. So before I go into my journey, I love this quote from Audrey Hepburn. She's before your time, but I just, grace personified. So Audrey Hepburn, this nothing is impossible, the word itself says, I possible. So that's something to say to all of you who are at the very cusp of your lives with everything ahead of you. Never think that something is beyond you. It's all possible. Next slide, please. Okay. All right. It should be 1, 2, 3. Something went wrong with the formatting, but okay, we can stay right here. It's like, okay. So I have 10 items here on my journey. So the first one is, when I started, I didn't really think that I wanted to get into engineering or do what I'm doing today. I wanted to get into the Indian Foreign Service. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted nothing to do with engineering. When my father was an engineer, he was in the auto industry and he had his own factory. So I kind of naturally drifted into engineering. But one of the things that I did, my father did, was he got me to do an internship at one of the premier technology institutions, the research institutions in Bombay, which was the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. That's where I got exposed to chip design when I was in my first year of undergrad. And that was a fabulous opportunity because it really opened my eyes and it exposed me to the world out there that I didn't know anything about. And it kind of helped me find my passion. So do internships, get exposed while still at school or college. And, if you don't find a passion, that's okay. And the best thing about the US is, you can major in computer science and history with a minor in history, if that's what you want, or minor in theater, if that's what you want. So explore. Don't, put yourself in a straitjacket and follow one piper. Explore. You have the time. Find something you're passionate about. That's very, very important. And, when you get into the workforce, the passion has to go with what is the mission of your company or your team or the group that you're working for. Because if you find something you're passionate about, but that's not what your team is about, then it's just a hobby. It's never going to become a career or a growth opportunity for you. And if you find something that you're not passionate about, but you're going to do it, you're going to do it to the best of your ability because you're sincere and you're ethical and you have integrity, you're never going to excel at it. So again, it's not a growth, it's not a career, and you're just not going to be enthused and, gung-ho about getting into work each day. That's not the right job for you. So find something you're passionate about and your company cares about. And that's, what happened to me when I did my undergrad. In my master's, I always loved math, so I did robotics. At the time that I finished my master's at UT Austin, robotics, all the opportunities were in the defense industry. But you can't get a job in the defense industry if you don't have US citizenship. It was really hard. So I kind of shifted focus into EDA, which was an emerging industry at that time, and found I really liked it. I was into the simulation field. And then I came here to California on a vacation. I never went back. And, I found a company that was doing fall simulators, loved what they were doing, was passionate about it. And that's how I started. And, that was the company that Synopsys acquired. And I've been at Synopsys ever since. So just, that passion is what you need to follow. But passion alone and making sure that your passion marries the mission is not enough. If you want to get ahead, you have to be curious about the business impact. We all get coaching about leadership, how to collaborate, how to be a leader, but you have to know the bottom line. What I am doing, how does it impact the bottom line? How does the company benefit? How does my team benefit? How does it profit from what I'm doing? What is the value I'm providing? And that's one of the reasons why, after several years in R&D, in actually writing code, in research and development, I made the move into marketing because I wanted to know, how does what I'm doing actually impact the customers? I wanted to know the financials, the bookings, the revenues, the install base, the contracts. And it was a beautiful journey to understand that part of, the customers, what they were doing, and how, when we did something in a product, how did it impact that bottom line of what it meant for Synopsys. So be curious, even if you're in R&D, even if in product engineering, marketing, and wherever. You don't have to be in sales, you don't have to be in finance, but be curious about the business impact and how you can influence it. Next slide, please. You are your own best advocate. Speak up. Now, there are some things that I'm listing over here that I wasn't good at. I could have managed my own career much better. But that doesn't mean that I can't tell you or I can share with you some of the things that I did do well, that I would now, hindsight, if I'm speaking back to my younger self, I would say, do it. Don't, put your head down, think that I am doing the best I'm doing and someone will notice, someone will rescue me, someone will come in and, offer me a great opportunity. It's not going to happen. Or in rare cases, it might happen if you're extremely lucky. You have a fairy godmother. Yes. But otherwise, you are your own best champion. You have to speak up, ask for help, talk to people, network. And if things still, don't move on. Don't stay in a dead-end job or don't stay in a dead-end place with a dead-end manager. Move on. Find a mentor. I think most of you, in schools are big with mentors, which is great. A mentor is someone who you can use as a sounding board, will guide you, will share their experiences, which is great. A mentor is very, very important. And a mentor is someone you choose. But a sponsor is even more important. And a sponsor is someone who chooses you. A sponsor is someone who looks out for you when you're not in the same room. You're not privy to the conversation where the opportunities are being discussed. It's a sponsor who thinks about you and says, hey, here's an opportunity. Maybe this person is good for this opportunity. So you need to put yourself out there so sponsors notice you. And especially when you get into the job situation, or even in college, when you're trying to land some plum projects, thesis opportunities, internships, a sponsor is very important. So cultivate a sponsor. Step out of your comfort zone, and that makes a sponsor notice you. There's a very well-known statistic, the difference between girls or women and boys or men, where women generally need to be like 100% confident that I can do this job, or I can take this project with my hands tied behind my back, blindfolded, before I will take it on. Whereas with men, it's maybe 20-30%, I can do it because I'll learn on the job. Well, everyone needs to step out of their comfort zone and take on new challenges. You don't need to be 100% confident or know how to do it. You will learn along the way, and there'll be other people to help you. That's something that I did, in all my time at Synopsys. I did not stay in the same job. I shifted so many different jobs. I moved from R&D to marketing to product engineering. I did simulation, VHDL system level, analog mixed signal, synthesis, physical synthesis, place and route. I did the patents program. I'm doing the patents program at Synopsys. I mean, just so many different jobs. And they're very important. When I was offered those opportunities, I didn't know how to do them, but I took them because it was a new opportunity and it was a way to network and to find, the next level. So always take on new challenges. Next slide, please. Project confidence. Now, confidence doesn't mean boasting or being, just a show off. Confidence is to be self-assured, know what you're capable of, and project it. Get rid of the words in your vocabulary like perhaps, maybe, I should, do you think? No, you're engineers, or most of you, I think, if you get into STEM, it's logic. So project the confidence. At the same time, be resilient. No one is always right. We all make mistakes because that's the way you learn. But the important part is you have to learn from your mistakes. And you can't learn if you don't make mistakes, if you don't put yourself in situations where you could make mistakes because you're learning. So be resilient. The important part is how quickly can you learn from your mistakes? Can you pick yourself up and move on? So be resilient. Keep learning and surround yourself with really smart people. That's one thing that's kept me at Synopsys all these years. It's the caliber of the people I work with. It's top notch. And it really, it's what keeps you going in every day. What keeps you, with these 12-hour days working on weekends. It's the technology which changes in the EDA where we are working. It's just amazing because the process technology changes. I started at 130 nanometer. We're now at 2 nanometer, which is, it's like, I think 1/10 that of a human hair. That's the technology we are working at. So there's just so much to learn, and you need some really smart people who are teaching you and whom you're working with on a daily basis. Know your audience. Know your audience is 2 parts. One is that when you're talking to people, you need to know what message you want to give them and what they want to hear from you. And you need to tailor your message, to the level at which they want to listen to you. But at the same time, you also need to make the audience receptive to what you're telling them. So I have this one I wanted to share. When I first moved from R&D to marketing, I had this presentation I was doing, analog mixed signal. And we had a VP of marketing who was the gating person for some conference where I was to present. And he didn't like my presentation. And they were like, 2 or 3 dry runs, he negated all of them and basically said, I won't let you present because this is not the caliber of presentation I want to see. So I went to see him one last time to try to understand what he was objecting to. And I was sitting in his office waiting for him to finish a call. There were pictures in his office of some of the travels, and I happened to have traveled to the same places. And so when he finished the call, I started talking to him, asking him about those pictures and his travels and the memories, and sharing some of my experiences in those places, Machu Picchu and Alaska. And at the end of that, we reached an understanding, made a few changes, and that was it. I was in the session. It just needed us to break the ice, get to know each other. And he was receptive. And in my job today, that's very important to me, because when I go to visit a customer, it's very often because they are unhappy with the tools, they hold Synopsys responsible for something that went wrong, and they want someone to come and explain why. And that's my job, to go and explain why and why it won't happen again. And it's important at that time to build that relationship with the audience. So as you go, through your life, and this would be with your professors, with your peers, with your with anyone you interact with, build that relationship. Next slide, please. And the last one, to paraphrase, do not try to be everything everywhere all at once. You have to be judicious with your time. You cannot be a superwoman, superman. You have to learn to prioritize. You have to know what to walk away from, because you'll burn out if you don't do that. So that's something, you just cannot do everything. That's the end of my spiel, and I'm open now for questions.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So if you guys got any questions at all, type them into the Q&A box or the chat box. And then at the very end, we'll try our best to get to them. But like after your presentation, Ashwini, I actually have some questions of my own I'd like to ask you. So first one, I know you kind of went over this, so it's pretty broad, but like what first got you into the tech field? And additionally, what motivated you to keep going and not just be satisfied with where you were?
What got me into it was, originally my dad, because he was an engineer, and it kind of, I drifted into it. But then that internship that I did, which in the semiconductor chip design lab, that was very important to get me there. Then when I started the coursework in EDA, that opened my eyes as well to get me in. And then I sort of, what kept me is it's just fascinating with EDA, the process. You've heard of, you may have heard of Moore's Law. Gordon Moore, the founder of Intel, he talked about how the process technologies, they keep shrinking year after year after year. So it started with Moore's Law, then it's now more than Moore. Now we started, when I joined the industry, which was in the early 90s, we were at like 130 nanometer technology. Now we are at less than 2 nanometer technology. It's just fascinating that we are designing at these low geometries and all the different things that need to change for that to happen. And that's because nothing is static. It's just dynamic. It just changes all the time. And that's something that just, it keeps me going. It's the very foundation. And it's not, if you look at the social media companies, or, Google or Meta, or when you're doing the programming, you need to be good with databases. But with EDA, it's not enough to be a computer science, skilled at computer science or skilled at computer programming. You need to know device physics. If you don't know how an AND gate works, if you don't know how a net or an RC delay can be computed, you cannot model how to do the chip design. So you need to know device physics, and you need to know computer programming, both skills. So it's, to me, that's a very unique combination, and it's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's very niche, very niche. Okay. And so I know you mentioned women in STEM, and how like 30% of
Mhm.
engineers, men. But when did you realize that, despite all of this, you chose the right field and more importantly, like the right company?
Synopsys, one of the things, and this I think in the US probably doesn't happen. When I was in India, um, it was very sexist.
Mhm.
So I could have easily followed my father's footsteps, but it was unheard of to be working with the male workforce on the shop floor, with the labor unions, with the male management. Um, I came here to the US, and both at UT Austin, where I was a TA, with a largely male class, where I was a teaching assistant for circuit theory. And then when I joined Synopsys, with again almost all male colleagues, but there was never a question of a male female discrimination. It was very, very equal. It was just very logical. If you knew what you were talking about, everyone respected you. You were heard, and that was very refreshing. So from that perspective, and at Synopsys, it's always been that equality platform for anyone. Inclusion and diversity is something that everyone talks about now, but at Synopsys, it has pretty much always been there. Though even at Synopsys, no one talked about it until maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But as a woman at Synopsys, I just never ever felt that as a woman I was in any way treated differently, or felt I had any fewer opportunities than what I have today. I think today the company is doing more to actively seek out the women or the minorities. So those who may not have on their own perhaps sought the opportunities or grabbed the opportunities, to seek them out, to give them the opportunities. I think the company is doing more. So I think, does that answer your question for why Synopsys? It was interesting work. It is a good company. It is interesting work. And there's a lot of change, and change is very important.
Yeah. So it's almost like a home now.
Yeah.
It's like a family.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So additionally, now we talked about like your strengths and all the good stuff, but did you have any regret in any decisions that you have made in your career? Like, do you remember like a specific instance or a specific like situation where you were like, damn, I wish I did that differently?
Yes, I definitely, and that's one of the points I made earlier, is to speak up and not hope someone notices your good work and comes and rescues you. I spent about 10 years in a situation at Synopsys where I was enjoying what I did, but it was something I was passionate about, but the group I worked for at that time didn't particularly care for it. It wasn't their mission. So from a growth perspective, there was no growth. But I stayed there in that group doing what I was doing, hoping someone would rescue me. And that was just a waste of 10 years. I learned a lot, me personally got enriched, but from a career growth perspective, it was a dead end. And that's something that, I regret. That was 10 years that could have been better spent. But one, I learned a lot from it myself, which helped me later on. And the other good thing is that in those 10 years, I was also able to do a lot of networking. So eventually, when I found my sponsor about 10 years ago, and who has helped me ever since, that happened because of all the work I did while I was in that group, following my passion. But I would absolutely, tell all of you here, speak up. And if things are not working out, move on. Ask for help. Don't get the help, move on. Don't wait for people to notice and rescue you. Not happening.
Yeah, like you gotta do it yourself. Like don't
gotta
expect
do it yourself.
anybody to do any handouts.
You
Right.
got to do it yourself.
Okay.
And
So
the
that
other thing I would say is, never accept it when someone tells you it's not possible. So even if you join a new group and there's some set ways, there are people who've been there for like years and they're saying, yeah, this cannot be done. Never, ever accept it. It's always, why not? And what if? Never accept it cannot be done. Nothing is impossible.
Yeah, you're living proof of that. Yeah. Okay. So now we've talked about the past, we've talked about your present, but what about your future? Like, what do you hope to accomplish in the future that you haven't already accomplished? Yeah.
That's a difficult question. There is so much that you can do. I mean, I obviously would like to get to the next level, which in our Synopsys would be as a vice president. But there are also, it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily the matter of a title. There are also other areas that you can do, within the company. So right now I'm doing place and route. I'm also running the patents program. I love running the patents program in EDAG because it exposes me to all the new inventions that our R&D is doing. And that's very, very exciting. We are also working on some new, how should I say it? There are some other things that we're working on within the company across EDAG and other business units, which I'm involved in. And, those could be some other areas that I could, take a bigger role in. So there are all kinds of interesting areas that I could be maybe spending more time on if I had the bandwidth, and that I would be looking into.
Have the bandwidth. That's a good one. Okay. All right.
The bandwidth is what stops you most of the time.
You got to have good bandwidth, man.
Yes.
For sure.
And like I said earlier, prioritization is very important. One thing, everyone talks about strategy. You would not need strategy if you had unlimited resources and there was no competition. The only reason for strategy is in the face of limited resources. You have to prioritize, and that's where strategy comes in. So when you come up with your career, it's a strategy you're following.
Yeah.
And that strategy is, again, you need to prioritize because you don't have unlimited resources.
You are dropping knowledge. Miss Ashwini. Okay. So I know you talked about efficiency and how it's the tech industry has gone from like 30 nanometers to like 2 nanometers, like over a long course of time. But I want to ask more recently, like how has the industry in particular changed in the past 5 years? And what do you predict will happen in the next 5 as well?
Okay. So I wish I had a crystal ball, because if I had a crystal ball to know what will happen in the next 5 years, I would be a gazillionaire. It's, AI is like totally taking off. And it's, when I did my master's, I said it was robotics. My major was robotics. My minor was artificial intelligence back then. But the AI now is so different and it's so pervasive. I mean, now I go to any customer and the first thing they want, maybe 5 years ago, it was all machine learning. What are you doing with machine learning? And now it's no longer machine learning. It's what are you doing with AI? With your chat, your GPT, your reinforced learning systems in your tool. So I do think in the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot more of AI and, dynamic learning in everything that we do. And I'll talk about the EDA industry because that's what I know more about versus, what's happening in semiconductor or high tech in general. But I do believe AI is here to stay, and we will just see a whole lot more of that even within EDA. And what's happened in the last 5 years is, with this march to angstroms, there has been just so much, even today. I mean, I think AI is getting possible because we're able to cram so much of compute power that it can actually power these big AI systems. If we weren't doing, these massive, super processing units, you wouldn't be able to power these chatbots, for example. So there is a lot that happened in the last 5 years to enable what's going to happen in the next 5 years. But AI is definitely one of the most, and it's going to be scary because there's also going to be a lot of misuse and misinformation that's going to be spread.
And then you're gonna have to go into like regulation and all that kind of stuff.
And the ethics of it is going to be huge. It's a completely unexplored, unregulated.
I mean, like even now we're seeing just like just courts just getting drawn up for like Mark Zuckerberg and all that kind of stuff.
Because you'll always go after the deep pockets. So like a driverless car gets into an accident, whom do you go after? The driver, the system maker who made the system that was controlling the speed of the car, or the ability of the car to brake in the face of of an obstacle, or the maker of the car, who has the deepest pockets. So yeah.
Oh, so it's all about money as well.
Or maybe the company that's leasing out the cars. Like, you don't buy your own car, you just rent them, lease them.
Yeah. So it's also about the corporation too. Right?
But technology is like amazing. It's going to change.
Yeah, innovation just like recently has just been ramping up, I feel like, just innovation in general. Like, yeah. But anyways, so my next question is, in what ways are people from your industry making a difference in the world as a whole? I know you talked about this a lot already. So like, I know it's like everything we do, literally everything we do.
Everything you do is powered by chips. And every single one of those chips was possible because it was realized using the software that we developed. Every chip, everything. Your washing machine, the microcontrollers.
Oh, that's you just watching Netflix? Oh, okay. Okay, so that's you guys. That's all
everything. It's either us or Cadence.
Oh, wow.
But pretty much we are the majority players, or the key players. EDA, this industry, it's such a niche player because if you think about it, like I said, our market cap was like about 67 billion. Cadence is maybe 64. But TSMC, this big manufacturing behemoth, that's at maybe 150 billion. But then you think about Google is at 1,500 billion, or a little more than that. So we enable much larger industries and companies. But EDA is essential. I think EDA is like the key to survival. If the EDA companies vanished off the face of this earth, all of this would come to a grinding halt, because there would be no new chips or no new designs, because you wouldn't be able to realize those designs without the EDA software.
Wow. Okay. So that's just key.
All right. It's key. Yeah.
Okay. Even for like the little things, just like washing our clothes and stuff, is key.
Yes, because every washing machine, it has a microcontroller in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Your digital thermometer has a microcontroller in it. Your coffee machine, your coffee percolator.
So it's just a part of our lives.
It is a part of your lives. Electronics are a part of your lives.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I have this question, but I think you answered it. What advice would you give to your younger self? You would say, speak up, right? That's your
speak advice. Up. Never accept it's not possible.
And would you say that's like the best career advice you've ever received?
I don't think I ever received career advice, really. But yeah, speak up. I would also say find a mentor. Find a mentor first, and then find a sponsor. When you start your career, find a sponsor. Very important.
right? Because they'll carry you when others won't.
Yes.
Right.
Just a mentor is not enough. And I really did not know about this distinction between a mentor and a sponsor. I've had mentors. I didn't have sponsors. A sponsor is very important.
Right. Okay. I see.
So make sure that a sponsor chooses you.
Okay.
Make yourself visible.
Right. Okay. So now this question, this can go a lot of ways, but what has helped you get to where you are, and advice that you would give to someone who wants to go in like a similar direction into this kind of thing that you do as well?
Determination, never say never.
Right.
Accountability, take ownership, always take ownership. I think that's especially as you go up the career ladder, it's very, very important that when you say you'll do something, you do it. And no surprises. There should never be surprises. So if you are facing obstacles, you need to, let your bosses know, your management know well beforehand that something is not going as per plan, and what is your recovery plan or your mitigation plan. You cannot be throwing up your hands 2 days before saying, okay, I can't meet it because guess what? There are 10 different things that happened. Well, things happen. Things happen. You have to plan for it. You have to figure out a way around it. You have to figure out plan B. You always have to plan, but you take accountability, you take ownership, and you have to move on. So I think that's very, very important to as you go up the career ladder. Yeah. And don't be afraid of, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say something that's stupid. No, you go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't be afraid of the unknown. Take chances, step out of your comfort zone, and grab new opportunities. When you're offered an opportunity, don't say no. And sometimes you fail. I mean, I had an opportunity offered to me last year, which I felt it was too much. It was something that I would not be able to do given everything else I was doing. But I didn't say no. I took it. I tried my best, but I was not very successful at it. And at the end of it, 6 months later, I was not able to accomplish it to the best of, to the level at which it should have been done. And then it was given to somebody else. But I'm still glad I took the opportunity and I did not say no, because saying no would have sent the signal that I was not prepared to take a new challenge. But doing it and not being able to, do my best at it was something for me. I tried my best, but I wasn't able to do it. And for the people around me was, yes, I gave it my very best shot. And okay, we did a period of 6 months, and then we said, fine, now we'll cut our losses and we will figure out a different approach. So it worked both ways.
Okay. You could be a motivational speaker, like you got very, very inspiring. Okay. Now, last question that I have. So, we've talked about your job. It's very demanding. It's stressful. You do a lot of stuff. You cover a lot of stuff at the company. But in your downtime, if you have any, what do you do to just unwind and relax or just have fun?
I am fortunate enough to have a pool in my backyard, which is I can do laps in, and I love to swim. I don't do competitive swimming, but I get in 1 hour every day, and I have an underwater iPhone. So I download all my favorite NPR programs or music, and every day I find 1 hour, whether it's 7 in the morning, it's 7 in the evening, it's in the middle of the day, but I find 1 hour and I swim. And many times I don't know what I'm listening to because I plan the day, I solve a naughty problem, like naughty, not naughty, but a difficult problem and I think about things, I come up with solutions. It's my de-stress time. I love it. And then the other thing I do is I love listening to music. So
Oh,
those
what
are
music
the
do
two
you
things
listen
I
to?
do.
Mm.
I'm more into Indian classical.
That's a banger. That's
I
always a
love
banger.
Indian classical music. And when I came to this country, I also got exposed to jazz and Western classical. Though in those two, I'm not very knowledgeable. I just enjoy listening to them.
Man, jazz and classical is nice because it's like without lyrics. You know, you can
Yes.
just, you don't need to pay. You have to worry about paying attention. You can just vibe to it. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So music and swimming, amazing. Okay, so now before we end, if you are interested in joining our team and earning volunteer hours, you can learn through visiting our website under the Join Us page as well. But now I'll get to the Q&As. So
Okay.
Yingji asks, what is more important for someone starting a job? Finding the right company / industry or the right people / team / manager / mentor?
That's a very, very good question. I think it depends on the kind of person you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you are someone who is very confident and knows exactly what they want, find the right company and the right industry, because you don't need someone to nurture you. And you get into the right company, you will move around and find the right people, the right team, the manager and mentor. But if you are a person who needs, who needs the context and who needs some nurturing, then it's better to get the right manager, because the manager holds your career in balance. So find the manager, find the mentor, find the team, because you need them to nurture you. And then, once you've gotten some confidence, some experience, then go find the right company, industry. That's what I would say.
And if you're lucky, you'll have both, right?
Yeah, if you're lucky, you'll have both.
Right. Okay. Now, another person asks, what skills or knowledge have you learned from school that are most useful for your job later on?
I would say, so a lot since I did my degree in electrical engineering, when I started working, a lot of what I learned in school with electronic circuit theory, I use it in my programming. So if I hadn't done, if I didn't know the Karnaugh map and Kirchhoff's laws and all of that, I wouldn't have been able to program it when I started. But I think more of it was the sheer grit, all the all-nighters I put in, and when I would do my computer programs or my deliverables, and I had to do the theorem proving, just sitting there and knowing that I have to find the answer no matter what. I have to burn the midnight oil in the library no matter what. I think that helps you in your job later on, because you just don't give up. So that
got that work ethic, you got that dog.
Yeah, the work ethic. Thank you for paraphrasing my long answer to that very short, pithy 2-word apt description.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good. So next question. What is your view on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace? I think you covered this slightly, but if you have anything else to add, go for it.
I think it's important. And again, it depends on the kind of workplace you are in. So there are, maybe not in the Valley, or even in the Valley. I mean, we've heard stories of some of the newer companies in the Valley which don't have a very good work culture, or which have a sexist work culture. So, it's definitely not the work culture at Synopsys, but it's good to have DEI programs, because there are always folks at work who, even though they have a perception that perhaps because they're minorities, they don't have the same level of the rights to speak up and to be included, etc. So if the company gives them platforms and makes it very explicit that your voice needs to be heard, your voice is going to be heard, and here is what we are doing for you. I think it encourages them to speak up and to find those communities. So I think that it is good that companies are doing it and companies are encouraging it. It's a good thing.
Okay. Now this next question is a long one, but now that computer science / engineering, it's a really popular major. Students are faced with a lot more competition. What advice would you give current college students hoping to go into engineering in order to stand out to employers? Like, how do they stand out?
I see graduate student resumes that come to me, and I'm just amazed at these resumes because they are like, they are super duper resumes, because not only have these students done, they have a fabulous GPA, they've done all these internships, and they have done these projects and these theses, and they've done these extracurricular activities. And I just wonder how they do all of this. But I do think that if you, besides what you do as part of your engineering curriculum, anything that you've done to give back to the community, anything that you've done to show your leadership, anything that you've done to show your, at least that's what I would look for, to show your leadership and how you're giving back to the community. I would value that because it tells me how you work in a team. And that's very, very important, because when you join a company, you're not working as an individual. You have to work with a team of people, and you have to be able to not only work, contribute by yourself, you have to influence others and work with them to sort of influence them to contribute as well.
Because I feel like most engineers, sometimes they might just worry about themselves and do their own thing, but they don't really branch out, connect, and collaborate as well as they should.
Yeah, you're no longer the individual superstar. You have to be able to work with others.
It's a team player type of thing. Okay. So now, next question. Angela Zhang asks, how many years have you worked as an engineer?
Over
really
30 years.
11?
Over 30 years.
Over 30? What?
Over 30 years.
Oh, you're a seasoned veteran then.
I am a Methuselah.
A what?
A Methuselah? Is that the way it's pronounced? Methuselah.
Did you win the spelling bee as a child?
No.
That is a word that is foreign to me.
No.
Okay.
I'm definitely a veteran.
So you're good with words as well. Good to know. Okay. You're a veteran. You're a seasoned veteran. So last question that I can see here. Can you explain the difference between mentor and sponsor again? Without a mentor / sponsor, do you think it would have made a difference?
Okay, so a mentor is someone who is, who gives you advice, a career advice, who shares the experiences with you, something like what I did today. If I was doing it one-on-one, that would be, and if I was doing it on a regular basis, that would be mentoring the person. And I mentor, a couple of folks at Synopsys, for example. And mentor, you can, use as a sounding board. So you can go to them with your issues that you're facing at work or at home or anything. It depends on the nature of the relationship with your mentor. That's what a mentor does. A sponsor, on the other hand, a sponsor is someone who's typically at a senior position in the company. And they are not ones that you're going to be using as your sounding board, but they are the ones who know what you're capable of, and they keep an eye out for you. They are the ones who think of you when discussions are happening, when opportunities are opening up, and the execs, the leadership is looking for who is the right person to be picked for that opportunity, and they are pushing your name. They are also the ones protecting you from any fallout, from any, any disasters. That's a sponsor. And in the slide, I think I had one picture, like, for example, I may ask you, I'll take this one example. I may ask you, well, have you thought about speaking opportunities like Educators for Impact? Maybe you want to go and speak over there. Or I may say, I heard of this opportunity and I proposed your name to go speak at Educators for Impact because I think it's a good opportunity for you. One is a mentor, one is a sponsor.
Now,
that's the difference. And to finish the question, or the second part of the question, do you think it would make a difference if you didn't have any mentors or sponsors? You know, there are plenty of people who have no mentors, no sponsors, and to make it, but I do think it makes a difference. You should have mentors and you should have sponsors. And maybe, you know, there are folks who don't have explicitly, who don't acknowledge, yes, indeed, I have so-and-so was my mentor or so-and-so was my sponsor. But if you really probe, what are the different milestones in your career and how did you achieve those milestones? You find out there were actually people responsible for those milestones. And it ends up those were the sponsors, or there was a sponsor, or they were mentors who suggested things that led to those achievements.
Wow. So we really do kind of just have like a mentor or sponsor,
Yeah.
whether we know it or not.
Right. Yeah, I think you should. And as long as you talk, you know, network, collaborate, it's important. Establish this adjacent curiosity. It's very important.
Okay. That's a great way to end this. All right. Now, next slide, please. So, quickly, like I know I said this before, but I'll reiterate this. You know, if you're interested in joining our team, if you're interested in joining Educators for Impact and earning volunteer hours, you can learn how to join our team through visiting our website and under the Join Us page. So yeah, just another little promotion in there, you know. And then finally, most importantly, thank you. Like, thank you for coming out, supporting us, supporting Miss Ashwini Mulgaonkar. I would like to give a special thanks to her. She was a wonderful speaker, and she really did bring us an insightful seminar. So I really appreciate that. Have a great rest of your day, everybody, and we hope to see you again at our next event. So yeah.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Elaine, for reaching out and for your patience and sending me the questions beforehand, and you know, bearing with me for all my late nights and late responses. And again, thank you all of you for having this event on Father's Day and showing up and for your insightful questions. Thank you.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.